Good evening. Today, a huge surge in foreigners committing sex offences in Britain can be revealed. The number of foreigners convicted for sex crimes increased by 62% in 4 years. Foreigners were responsible for 14% of all sex offence convictions last year. I suspect the true figure could actually be much higher because it's not clear whether this data includes people who were born abroad but have obtained a British passport, which would technically make them British. Here's a case for you. An illegal small boat migrant raped a 15-year-old schoolgirl after claiming asylum in Britain. Sadek Nikzad from Afghanistan lived as a tourist in Italy, Germany and France before claiming asylum in Britain. He posted pictures of himself, actually. He was outside Rome's Colosseum, France's Eiffel Tower. He raped the girl just yards from his migrant hostel in Scotland. And then today, this story broke. An Indian man who overstayed his visa and evaded immigration authorities for 3 years before sexually assaulting a woman despite already being on bail. I mean, here are the other shocking crime stats for foreigners that were revealed today by the Centre for Migration Control. Here we go. So, sex crimes are up 62%. Convictions for theft, up 78%. Robbery, up 19%. Criminal damage, up 105%. We'll just add this to the growing list of evidence that we are importing vile criminals. The Sun's investigation revealed 1 in every 100 illegal migrants in hotels that they looked into appeared in court charged with criminal offences including rape, robbery and GBH. Now, I don't know about you, but I fear that the worst is yet to come, because we revealed on this show that human traffickers are advertising channel crossings using ISIS propaganda videos. And today, this is in the news, following a previous report by us again here at GB News. A man from Yemen has made it to Britain. He is accused of being a Houthi terrorist. He's posed with weapons, and get this as well. The latest images show him in the RAF Wethersfield base. Honestly, we've moved him into RAF Wethersfield. It's unbelievable, this. Now, people on the left need to face the facts. Stuff like this is happening now every single day. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. We've also got political commentator Russell Quirk and journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. Thank you very, very much. Again, Russell, I'll start with you again. So let's deal with these figures and facts first. Migrant sex offences are up 62%. I mean, it's astonishing.
It is, but and obviously it's only recently that we've actually been able to see figures. If you remember, only, a year ago or so, lots of us, including Rupert Lowe, were lobbying government to actually let us see the figures that showed the proportionality, the representation of foreign migrants that come to this country and commit crime. And of course, if you remember back, the government resisted that for quite some period of time. Now we know why, don't we? Because this whole all immigrants are welcome. Immigrants are good in terms of the economy, our social fabric, culture and so on. That argument now, when you look at the facts, the data, the statistics, when it comes to the propensity of people from certain countries to commit crime, particularly sexual crime, because some of those men from those countries do not see women as equals. They see them as people that they can have at their whim, so to speak. I'll tread carefully here. We should not be surprised, I'm afraid, that particularly people from the likes of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan and so on, that do see women as second-rate citizens. Bearing in mind, they don't think women should be educated. They don't think women should be able to drive cars. They don't think women should be able to go out on their own. And if they're suspected of adultery, they should be stoned to death. It's no wonder that people that come here from Iraq, Iran, Syria and Afghanistan in increasing numbers have a far, far more, a greater propensity to commit sexual crime. Yeah. But we continue, and they do on the left, to deny it and allow these people to come in continually.
But then they also speak very, very highly of women's rights. And when are they going to wake up to the fact 14% of all sex offences were imported into Britain because a foreign national was convicted of it?
I mean, I think we just got to follow on from what Russell is saying there. You have to understand that some, not all, but some of these men that arrive in this country have a very, very different view of women. And I've worked, I think I've mentioned before, on an English language programme in the hotel, so I know some evacuees and asylum seekers and refugees, and I've been there in the trenches, and I can tell you that even internally in the hotel, there are problems with these men who pick on other Afghan women inside the hotel. So what do you think they're going to do when they get outside into the community? No one has changed their cultural view of women at all. They do regard them as, well, nothing more than, I'm going to say it, human incubators.
Benjamin, what's it going to take for people on the left to wake up and realise that actually we are importing scores of sex offenders?
But I think that's a pretty unpleasant way to look at it, because...
More unpleasant than the sex offences?
Because, well, hang on, the question is, you can take the fact, the unacceptable fact that there were... So in these figures, there were 43 Afghans who committed sex offences. There are about 85,000 Afghans in this country. And so why should those other 85,000 people face a consequence?
So 14% of all sex offences over the period that study looked at there were committed by foreign nationals. So obviously the Afghans are supposed to...
There are millions and millions of foreign
but hang on, there are facts and data that shows a disproportionality
14% of all sex offences
of people from certain countries to commit sexual offences.
But my question is, what do you do with that information?
Stop the people coming in the first place.
But I don't think that is right. I think people...
Well, you think it's okay to import
in
sex
Afghanistan, the country that you're talking about, people that put their lives on the line with our troops, with allied forces, should not be blocked just because someone else is a sex offender.
OK, so let's be very clear about the Afghans we brought in, and we didn't do a 100% successful job, but there were the interpreters and there were the triples who helped our soldiers in Afghanistan. They were evacuated. That means they had passports and indefinite...
But the argument goes here...
Benjamin, can I just change the context of the conversation? Guys, can I just change the context of the conversation? Do you have a mother, a sister or a best friend that's a female?
No.
Right, you don't at all. So maybe you don't have, as much regard as I do as a father of 3 daughters
for
the safety of women in society. All I'm going to suggest to you, Benjamin, if you did have a mother or a sister or a friend that was a female that had been raped by someone that had come here on a boat from Afghanistan, Syria or Iran or Iraq, etc., given their higher propensity to commit sexual offences, you would have a very, very different point of view.
I think you're better. I think you're better than making that personal.
We're talking about facts. We're talking about facts.
The people you're talking about, Benjamin, they are the people that assisted the military are evacuees. The problem is that in recent years we've got the people who came over on the boats. They are largely undocumented. We do not know where they have come from, and we do not know what they did, coupled with the fact that they have a very different cultural outlook.
The slight concern I've got with this is that actually those figures that we've just rattled off there about the sex offences side of it is not just illegal immigrants, so it's foreign nationals. So it's people that potentially have come here on a visa as well. So these are legal immigrants as well. And does this not concern you maybe that we are importing this level of not just sex offences, to be fair, but I mean we saw there criminal damage up 105% amongst that cohort of people. Robberies was up as well, I think it was, as well as violent offences were all up.
But you've only got to look at Sarah Sharif, the little girl that was killed by her family.
But isn't the whole problem, though, Benjamin, that the people on your side of the argument think that liberalism is more important than the dignity and the sexual depravity that is played upon with regard to women in this country?
Let's give Benjamin a bit of time here.
First of all, there are more than enough white British men who commit sex crimes and have appalling attitudes to women and get away with it all too often. We've had endless stories in recent years of the Me Too movement. So the idea to other these people as though they have some unique moral failing that we don't, I think is wrong.
But do you think it's
the second point is that
more?
it's legitimate to say this is a concern, quite obviously. But the question is, what do you do with that concern? Because if you're saying that we shouldn't let anybody in from those countries because of 43 people out of 85,000, I think that is the wrong way for us to behave as a country.
I wonder if we could start by being honest about it. You see, this is the thing that for too long, you made a point at the start there, Russell, about how difficult it was to get this data. I mean, we submitted FOI request after FOI request, and we were told, by the way, this is under the Tories, we were told that it would take too much manpower to get this information.
And they don't record it.
And now what's happening is that the information is starting to come out because so many people were hammering it, and it's emerging why they didn't want to tell us, isn't it?
Yep. That's exactly what's happening. And now, of course, although I'm aghast, frankly, that anybody on any side of the political spectrum can defend what is happening here. This is not just 43 Afghanis. We know that there is a higher propensity for some people from some countries to commit sexual offences. It's in the data. It is simply a matter of fact. To, the whataboutery, Benjamin, insofar as, well, white men commit sexual offences as well, that doesn't cut it in this argument.
We know
doesn't
that.
cut it.
And I'm a woman, and I think since my early 20s, I've had to deal with this on a very frequent basis in the workplace and personally. We're not saying there's not a problem there, but we are saying, I think there's a cultural difference here with how some of these men regard women.
No, but
you can't ignore that.
But we're importing. But the very nature of the fact that we're importing more people that commit offences means there's more offences. Can we just think about the women themselves, the girls, the 14 and 15-year-olds that are raped?
I know them.
Right? This is not just statistics. This is not just data. This is human lives.
Yeah.
But if there is a higher propensity from someone from Afghanistan to commit rape, we need to acknowledge it, and that then strengthens the argument to stop them coming in the first place.
One of the other topics here was this Yemeni individual who is like a card-carrying Houthi terrorist by the looks of things, pictured like relentlessly carrying guns and weapons. The reason why that was brought to the attention of authorities was because he had a prominent social media profile, as so many of them do on TikTok, and he was putting videos up, and then he put videos up of himself in RAF Wethersfield, which is one of these bases, and that meant that some people then looked back at his other content, and they realised that he was a Houthi terrorist. My point here being, Benjamin, is that I wonder how many others of these people have slipped through the net because they didn't have a social media profile and some kind of citizen journalist or concerned local wasn't able to just look at his track record and go...
It's just like the guy with the AK-47 tattooed on his face.
No, that's a different guy.
I know, but that guy that came here and said he was coming to kill Boris Johnson, and it took the Daily Mail to find him, not the police, not the authorities.
I think one problem we have, which you raised earlier, and there's a guy I know who's from Yemen who moved to Sweden as a refugee, and he's a gay man, and he said that when he got to Sweden in the camps there, he found that all the same attitudes that he was leaving Yemen for were perpetuated, and there was no effort to integrate them, to teach them, to change those attitudes. And so I don't think that we should not take any refugees. I think that would be a small way for us to behave the wrong way. But what I do think is a massive failing is that we make no effort to change these people, to integrate them, to let them learn, which clearly is possible.
And
some of them you've got to bounce back.
No, but where we start is the fact that we've got to stop believing that everybody that comes over on a boat in particular, 50,000 people a year now, mainly men, hardly ever a woman or a child, that they claim asylum. Do we really believe that they are genuinely fleeing from persecution? Of course they're not. They're here with their hand out. They are economic migrants. They're not fleeing persecution.
Well, if they're coming from Afghanistan, there's quite, and I was in Afghanistan a couple of weeks ago, there's quite a real chance that they've fled the situation in the last couple of years.
One of the things I will say is people talk to us a huge amount, don't they, about like, oh my gosh, the worst thing that could possibly happen in Britain is that we see the rise of the far right. We've got this massive far right presence, and then you see cases like the bloke who was actually also from Afghanistan, who acted and lived as a tourist in 3 separate European countries, posing next to the Colosseum, comes to Britain, claims asylum. We bump him into a migrant hotel in Scotland, and within days, he rapes a 15-year-old girl within yards of the migrant hotel that we're... That is radicalising stuff. That is radicalising stuff, isn't it?
But if we've forgotten, this is why the migrant hotel protest started, because of Epping, because someone had been in this country for less than a week and was charged with not 1, not 2, but 3 sexual offences. We've seen the same in Barbican. There are only, I think it's 40 migrants in that hotel in the Barbican. Between them, they've been charged with 91 offences. I mean, come on. Can we be real about this?
They're obviously alleged and go to court, but we know all that, so yeah.
The problem is with young men between 25, say, and 35. That's the problem. And there's a reason no women don't get on the boats. I mean, the people that should be coming out of Afghanistan are women. That's who we should be helping.
And if these people are fleeing persecution, why are they leaving their women and children behind?
All right, well, look, final word to you on this, Benjamin, because it is an everyday thing. I know I bang on about it a lot, but it is because I think it's the most important issue facing Britain at the minute. But every day we're getting more and more of these stats. And, do you think that people on the left might start to turn around and think, well, actually, maybe this is bad. Maybe refugees aren't all welcome here.
But I think, it should be easier to get rid of people that behave in this way because they get all sorts of appeals. That is fair. But the idea that we shouldn't take people from places like Sudan or Yemen or Afghanistan, which have had appalling situations, I think would be wrong. For example, we've taken 200 gay people from Afghanistan, people that would have quite obviously been murdered when the Taliban took back control. That is an attitude we should be proud of.
OK. I did chuckle, actually, a bit at a BBC article today where they did it about how everyone in these migrant hotels is now living in fear and all that stuff. Well, not enough fear to stop people coming across the channel, of course, but also the other thing is they spoke to a woman from Tanzania about how she was fleeing, but Tanzania is not at war and is considered a very popular tourist
I think
destination.
people go on holiday to Tanzania, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, but I go on holiday to Afghanistan and Syria.
Yeah. But it's a luxury holiday destination. But obviously we'll give her asylum, won't we? Because why not?